For the last generation,
On
they didn't have a choice.
BabyMojo.com, the Republican
I
candidate
did
for
not
governor.
have sexual relations
And I
with him.
realized that this is something
Miss
he is
Lewinsky.
We're going to
inherent.
be able to solve our problems if we get distracted by sideshows and carnival barkers.
One Republican, one Democrat, and you discuss the issues that matter in today's local, state, national, and global politics. Hosted by Steve Hickson with co-hosts John Stanberry and Franklin Chansey. This is Backfire.
Good morning. Daniel Brantley here. Steve Hickson is actually fishing today. John Franklin, how are you?
Fine.
We're great.
Fantastic. Are you heartbroken that Steve's not here?
Well, it does take an edge off the morning.
Yeah.
Edge.
What's a damper? I will try to be as bipartisan as Steve is as I do this. We'll start local. I guess y'all heard that really sad story about the Stephen Kinder fellow who'd gotten arrested and then took his own life. That whole thing is sad.
Yeah, absolutely. You always hate to see tragedies like that occur in any family, and particularly, under these circumstances. There were a lot of, I guess you would say, buzzards circling, and I guess it just got to be too much. But that's always a sad thing.
But, wouldn't you assume that if he felt that distraught to take his own life, that obviously there's some kind of story to what happened with the animal? I mean, he obviously felt remorse or something to be moved to the point of taking his own life.
Well, one thing that I have seen practicing law for 30 years is that even really good people can find themselves in a mess and unable to confront that mess, and will continue building walls around themselves to hide that mess. I'm reminded of the tri-state crematory case down in Georgia. I doubt that person started out with that idea in his mind, but once he crossed over that line, he couldn't figure out how to get out of it. And it wouldn't surprise me if the same were true in this particular case.
And the problem is, now personally, and this may sound a little harsh, but I think suicide is an incredibly selfish act. It leaves everybody that you care about behind suffering, and it leaves them with that mark or emotional hold on their person for the rest of their life.
Yeah. And so with that in mind, we say condolences to the Kinder family. And
I agree. And I'm sorry, I don't mean to say
no,
that he was
I don't think you were saying
selfish.
that at all. It's just the timing of it was.
It's just very, the hard thing for me is the family has to live with that the rest of their life, and it's terrible.
Yep. Agreed. Well, we had some changes in the liquor store ordinance. We talked about it last week, I believe. They're thinking about opening the number of liquor stores, however many they could do. They had to be, their application had to be sent in by, they have to have their license issued on April 18th, 2019. They've had 19 applications picked up, none submitted. And while they have lifted the number of liquor store licenses they're going to grant, that number is set in stone once they apply until we get less than 5 liquor stores in Cleveland. And then you can bump up to 5. So right now we could have 19 of them, and then 5 is the... Does that make sense? Am I super...
I didn't really understand that one.
As many people as want to apply for a liquor license can get one.
Okay.
They've got to do it by April because they get their license mid-April.
And if all 19 turn these forms back in, they will give 19 liquor licenses.
Okay.
And then if they fall away...
first of all, that assumes that all 19 people who pick up the applications will meet the restrictions.
Well, no, I said if they all turn it in.
Yeah.
If they all... In other words, they're not... Here's what this is, pure and simple. They painted themselves into a corner from the start. They said, okay, we're going to only allow 5. Well, then I can tell you, I know of someone who asked them, Well, based on what criteria are you going to pick between, let's say you get 10 and you're only going to allow 5, what criteria are you going to use? And after you do it, no matter what criteria you pick, the 5 you don't pick are going to claim that there was some kind of favoritism, the fix was in. So they painted themselves in a corner, and all this is a, hey, we're just going to throw the door open wide, let everybody have one, and then we'll fall back to our 5.
This is interesting. There is no cap on, or I'm reading this story now, there is no cap on the number of licenses that can be issued right now.
And the state doesn't care.
But whatever the number is, whether it's 8
or 80
or 19 or whatever, okay, there can't be any more than that, ever, unless the number of operating licenses drops below 5, in which case they will revisit it at that point.
Now, as I read it originally, then the 5 kicks in at that point. So what they're trying to do here is get to 5. So they're going to let 19 have licenses if all 19 meet the criteria.
I guess so.
And then if competition, I can tell you Etowah, from what I was told, had 2 liquor stores. They're down to 1 now. So they're saying that when competition weeds this down below 5 or to 5 becomes the limit.
Okay.
So that is, when you look at that, the only explanation is they painted themselves into a corner and had no real way to choose between. So they just said, okay, we're not going to choose at all. We'll let everybody have one.
Well, I'm not saying everybody have one.
Everybody
It meets all the restrictions and so forth. It sounds to me like it's a fancy way of saying we wouldn't want there to be more than 5.
Well, here's the problem with that, though. If there was a real reason for there only to be 5, then they're going to violate those. I assume those were based on some kind of protections for our city. So they're going to violate those protections to protect themselves politically.
I can't imagine actually that we can support 5. So I'll be surprised by that.
But you agree that if 5 is important,
well, it's not important. That's
then why did they set 5 to begin with?
I don't know why they did that.
Because too many liquor stores, just like I said, John Hopkins' study shows it increases violent crime. And they know that. And they didn't talk about that before everybody voted on this, because we were in our happy place going, this will all be sunshine and unicorns.
Well,
and now they're having to deal with the fact that, guess what? There are negative consequences to voting liquor stores in.
Ooltewah has 2 in an area smaller than Bradley County, and I don't think they've seen a big spike in violent crime down there.
We're already one of the most violent cities in America, according to the statistics.
Like I said, I don't think we're going to see a spike.
Oh, okay.
We're already there.
Our crime is so high, this won't possibly have any more. I'm just telling you.
Well, that's a relative statistic, given that crime rates have been falling everywhere over time. To say that we're one of the highest ones doesn't obscure the fact that those rates have been falling.
They have been falling, despite the fact that gun ownership has actually been increasing.
Is it normal? I just don't know. Application fee for the liquor license is $1,000. Is that a typical business license?
That's not unusual.
It's not unusual for liquor.
I don't know.
Well, I also find it interesting that once they get the applications, City Council will schedule 10-minute presentations from each applicator.
I don't know
I'm not sure what that's supposed to be.
I don't know why
you've given restrictions they have to meet. They either meet them or they don't.
It seemed to me that anybody in the city codes or whatever office is supposed to handle this would simply go through, check the boxes off, and you either filled all the boxes in correctly or you didn't. Think about that. Why are we going to let these people, and I don't mean but why would you make these people get up and make a presentation? So what, if one guy sings and dances his presentation, he'll get higher rank than the guy that just talks?
It's especially...
Well, that would actually be entertaining. I could go for that.
I mean, this is all a show. That's what bothers me, and this is the worst thing government does. It's all a show for the news media and the public to go, look what we're doing. It has no practical, thought-out reasoning behind it.
On the plus side, our city council doesn't get paid by the hour, so we don't have to worry about paying more.
Well, I hope they're sure that their embroidered sport coats are all pressed nice for the show.
It is curious to do that, particularly because they have allowed as many as want to get them. You would think you would have one of those presentations if there's a limited number. It almost seems like a weeding out process you would do, right? Where you can see their plan and say, this one's going to thrive, this one's going to fail.
They can't weed them out. This is all political.
Saying, yeah.
It's all political on their part. They box themselves in. They have no way to weed these out without being accused of showing favoritism. So they just Katie bar the door and threw the gates open.
Well, in 2016, Cleveland got the deed to the Moore building with the understanding that we were going to knock the old building down and make it a parking lot. They still hadn't done that, and now Bill Estes in particular is voting against it, as he did in 2016. And Tom Cassada, Whoop FM DJ extraordinaire, backed him on it, just wanting to research what it's going to cost to tear the building down. It's kind of bizarre that we have decided to tear it down without even knowing how much it's going to cost. Bill Estes says, how much will it cost taking the asbestos
Less than
out?
it would cost to fix it. It's probably
Oh, I'm
the
sure,
answer.
yeah.
That's probably the
Yeah.
real answer.
It'd be good to get a quote. I think I can understand that desire.
Since I just railed on the city council, let me, defend them a little bit on this. I think the reason they're talking about tearing it down is it's going to fall down, and they're concerned for public safety that if they don't manage the collapse of it, it'll fall down on someone.
Yeah. Well, Bill says we make stop signs willy-nilly. We do right-of-ways willy-nilly. Now we want to take a building down. He says it's been empty for 20 years. What's 2 more weeks? So he just wants to find out what the number is before he approves it.
I think that's probably prudent.
Yeah. So we'll see what goes there. We also had good news from Doug Berry, who's over at the Chamber. Got a lot of new industry kind of stuff in the works coming here. The interesting downside that I don't think I've ever seen in something like this is that the median employee age is 36 to 40, which he says makes us an aging community. Since I fall right in the sweet spot of that kind of upset me. But he's saying we need to do things, provide outdoor activities, etc., to keep our younger employees here. Because Chattanooga is a massive draw. That's what I read between the lines. He didn't say Chattanooga.
Sure.
But the things that they do, I know a lot of people who move there because they've got so much going on every night.
Of course, there could be other things going on with that. We have possibly, and I'm not saying this for sure, but there's a chance that we have stagnant industry growth. And if you have stagnant industry growth, people have those jobs, they stay in those jobs, your median age is going to go up.
Yeah.
If you have new employment opportunities that open up, those are filled by younger people looking for jobs.
Yeah.
So that may be a reflection somewhat of our, so far, inability to attract these plants to Bradley County. And I've said for years, the worst thing you can do is become a bedroom community to a neighboring county.
Yeah.
So Hamilton County got the VW plant. A lot of our people up here work there, but the problem is it costs the county money to provide housing. We actually lose money on those increased tax dollars, growth in the form of residential growth. So Hamilton County gets the industrial growth that makes the county money. We get the residential growth that costs the county money.
It is interesting. He said the community's number of workers declined by more than 2,000 last year, mostly from retirement.
Well, again, you're talking about an industry that's been here. The workers are aging out.
Yeah.
Hopefully, the new industrial park on the south side, now that VW is doing this big expansion, there's talk about us picking up maybe some of the supply companies down there. So hopefully that'll come. And I think if it does, you'll probably see that median age come down.
Yeah, I think the new industries, and there's quite a number of them that he talks about who have got interest or are starting to move here. That could have a big impact. Well, we're going to jump out of local and straight into the reserve. Warren suggests American Indian might appear on other documents. Now, to be fair, I think Warren probably grew up like most of us did with. She says, her and her brothers were all told they had Native American in them.
Look, she's a lawyer. She knows that when you write something down on a form, you can't just go, oh, well, my great aunt Sally one time told me that. She knows that. She lied. She used it to get ahead. We've always said she used it to get ahead. She said she didn't. Franklin has said she didn't. Now we know she did. And what she's admitting there is she may have done it on other forms.
Yeah. Franklin, does these new revelation from Elizabeth Warren, does it
Well,
change
what
you?
I said last week holds true. I think it's going to hurt her. All right. In the overall scheme of things, is what you said have some truth in it? Probably so. Everybody I know around here claims that their grandmother was 1/8 Cherokee, even though they really weren't.
They don't put it down on a form, and especially someone professionally educated like she was.
Well, it's a little more different. It's a little different in Oklahoma, where there is a huge population there, unlike here. So I suspect I would tend to follow whatever the Native American community thinks about that. If they think that's disqualifying for her, and I wouldn't begin to suggest otherwise.
All right, so I don't disagree with you about that demographic. What about the rest of us that just think that it shows she lied? And
I think that's fine, John. If that's the standard that you want to employ on what qualifies someone to be president or not, I'm comfortable if you make that choice.
Well, here's the thing, Franklin.
Are you going to?
Race is one of the most. You all have done racial politics for decades. So here's one of your own who
John,
actually
I didn't criticize you.
Well, but here's. You, based on how you would have treated a Republican if they had done this, you should have said she disqualified herself and should drop out.
There are
on top of the fact that
saying
she's apparently lied about it. You know, all these. She had to know that she put it on this form. She had to know it was out there.
I actually prefer her to be in the Senate on the financial services side of it. I think she's a more effective legislator.
Now,
there.
do you prefer her financial opinions today or the ones that are exact opposite she put forward in her book in 2003? Which one? Because she's done a 180 flip-flop.
What she's always done is put a substantial amount of effort into looking out for consumers.
Read her book.
Fine.
Her book is almost diametrically.
Have you read her book?
I've read excerpts from her book.
I suggest you probably should read the whole thing first before you say that.
When you have excerpts that are factual and they contradict your present
I don't know the
positions.
context.
Look, Rob Lowe tweeted something and had to apologize for it because of how dainty the politically correct progressive left is. But when she announced, I actually thought it was really funny. He said, well, she'll bring a whole new meaning to the concept commander-in-chief. in quotation marks. He's now had to retract that and apologize because he triggered some of the progressives.
As I said, I will defer to the Native American community for how to react to that one.
Well, they said that she lied and that she was dishonest about it, and she shouldn't have done it.
Okay.
And that was before they knew she actually put it on
And
the
as
bar.
I just said, I will defer to their feelings about that.
Well, because...
Wait a minute. What does that do to Harvard's claim? Now, they bragged on her being a woman of color, and then when this all broke, they turned around and said, oh, no, we didn't. Now, there's literature from Harvard listing her in a bragging press release about being a woman of color. What does that say for Harvard, Franklin?
Well, I don't know what it says for Harvard.
Okay.
Well, I will say, because I am...
While we're on the subject of Harvard, though, here's 3 cheers for our own University of Tennessee, who had the same number of Fulbright scholars this year as Harvard University, the 12th most in the country, 19. That's pretty impressive.
Wow. It's a good year for UT minus their football program.
Well, that too.
They do have a football program, right?
I used to.
They do.
I guess it's probably not the greatest football T-shirt, but I always wore the T-shirt that said, we put so many astronauts, so many, it listed all of that, and at the very end, and we play a little football. But the shirt was impressive for what University of Tennessee has been able to accomplish.
Yeah. Indeed. And
that was years ago. We've had a lot more since.
Well, now you're just bragging.
For UT. Yeah.
Well, hey, just to throw a wrench into things, because I am nonpartisan on this show and in my life in general.
You're a millennial, aren't you?
No, I'm not. I don't know. I was born in '79, so whatever I am. Yeah, I've got opinions. I try not to push them too hard. In here at least. Those DNA tests, I've read an article. They are about 40% accurate. It's very curious. My my father-in-law and his sister, both who have the same mother and father, got very, very different results. And it is very hard for Native American to show up on these because there's so little.
It shows up Asian a lot of times.
It shows up Asian, or it'll show up, Mayan or Guatemalan.
One reason it shows up Asian, which is kind of interesting for the progressive left, because they're not Native Americans. They came across a land bridge from Asia.
Yeah.
Well,
So
everybody here came across.
well, there
the
may have
bridge
been
from somewhere.
well, I don't know. Frankly, there could have been indigenous people here that they pushed out. We
Well,
don't
they
know.
got here from somewhere, John, and
Yeah, but your point is
My
taken
point
that Native
is
Americans may not have been the natives.
Right.
Yeah.
yeah,
Compared to us, they
the
are.
problem with DNA testing is that there aren't enough DNA in the database
Yeah.
It
to
will
make
get-
it.
yeah,
It
they
will-
actually
it
update
gets
those.
better over time. In fact, that's true. I did mine about 3.5 years ago, and about a year ago, I got an update from them
Oh,
that
that's
changed those numbers somewhat. Now, it is entirely possible for it to be accurate, and brothers and sisters show up different numbers, though,
Yeah.
because you don't get the exact same DNA passed down to you that your brother or sister
Yeah.
did.
Were you a
Even though-
wasp?
Huh?
Were you a wasp?
It was really interesting. I was about 25% Irish, that area there. I had a huge chunk of Western European, Italy, that kind of area, and I had 3% African from the Nigeria area, which I suspect you'd find in a lot of
Southerners.
around here.
I was
But no, I didn't have
wasp.
anything that showed up as Native American.
I might have. I don't know. I had 50 or more percent Great Britain and Scotland. I had about 8 or 9% or 10% Irish. I had 30 to 40% that was Belgian, Germany, and then I had 1% possible Asian.
Oh, wow. That's an internal war right there. I just got 100% stud muffin, so.
Yeah. Most people weren't even aware that was a category.
Yeah, well, it's
Kind of surprised them, too.
yes. It was a catch-all for me.
Wasn't that, you probably did 21 in me, right?
Yes. No, forever 21. All right. In Alabama, there's a death row inmate, Muslim fella, who is asking, sounds like very close to his execution, is when he asked to have his Muslim spiritual leader there, and they denied this request and said he could have the Christian fellow there, but he didn't want it. And he has been executed now. But it was an interesting case, but they say that he did not request this thing until a couple days before, and they're saying that's the reason, and they voted on it 5-4.
I mean, could they not get, I mean, look, I'm as hard on these things as you'll find, but if he requested a Muslim leader, he should have had a Muslim leader.
I think that's just an obvious
Now,
no-no.
if there's if they can show that we couldn't get it here, we would have had to delay the execution, I might cut them a little
I
slack.
find that hard to believe, though, in in
They-
Birmingham or something
There's
like
not
that.
a
There's not
Iman somewhere.
Yeah.
Oh, well, he was there.
And they have no
yeah.
excuse.
They said the problem, according to the article, was that to allow a non-staff, because the Christian fellow
I
had
bet they
staff.
allowed a non-staff. I mean, what?
his
First of all,
pat-
they have a minister who's on staff. Is that what they're saying?
it would be, they have chaplains,
Probably
prison
do.
chaplains who
Yeah,
go from jail to jail.
To me, this seems like a no-brainer. I mean,
If I were on the board and we didn't have that policy, I'd have made that policy pretty quickly.
I mean,
Yeah.
I mean, what's the theory behind having a chaplain with somebody there?
Sure, to ease the transition.
It's a degree of compassion. It's a degree of recognition of faith and so forth. Why would you say one faith over another for somebody who's about to die?
Yeah.
That didn't make sense to me.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, if you really want to get into this, though, the Christian faith calls for redemption based on a request for forgiveness. That's not there in Islam. So it's pivotal in Christianity. It's not pivotal in Islam. Now, I don't know a ton about Islam, so maybe there is something, but I'm pretty sure that the backpack bombers don't have absolution right before they blow up and kill tens of thousands.
Yeah, it read kind of like the fellow was on death row for 1995 rape and murder of a 15-year-old, And it sounded like after being in jail for that long that they read his request as a way to delay things.
It doesn't matter. It's it's a chess move that you can look at it and say, we know why he's doing it. But PR-wise and probably court-wise, it was not a smart move on their part.
Yep.
Yeah, I just don't really understand that one.
Well, as Hannah Montana says, everybody makes mistakes.
You're a millennial.
Everybody has their days.
You're definitely a millennial.
No, I've got
You're
daughters.
quoting Hannah Montana.
I've got daughters.
Okay.
All right. We've got a break here in a minute, so I don't want to jump into anything that's going to get you guys yelling just yet. But I saw an article that said Apple and Google are both getting some heat because they're hosting an app that the Saudi government has created that allows men, that is used specifically for men to track women, to keep them in the country, to know where they are at all times, to prevent them from running away. Thoughts on Apple and Google hosting this? They're saying that they didn't realize it was being used for that kind of thing. But that was the whole purpose of the thing. It shoots you text when your target moves.
Look, this has been coming. We've been watching movies about this. We can complain about that, but it won't matter. They'll create another app. This is apparently going to be our world from here on out. They've got cameras. London has cameras on every street corner, and they can actually turn and look in buildings. Chicago apparently is one of the highest videoed cities in the world, certainly in the United States. Which, by the way, if you want to talk about a case, the Jussie Smollett case, where he claimed that he was attacked by two men who beat him up, put a noose around his neck, said homophobic things to him, and then yelled, "This is MAGA country." Apparently, there's absolutely no proof that happened, and he's not really cooperating.
Is this the actor guy?
Yep.
Well, I don't know if that's true or not. The police issued a statement yesterday that said he had been cooperative. Here's the thing. They have him on video for all except 60 seconds. And in that 60 seconds, he claimed that he was attacked, he was beaten, he had a noose put around his neck, and he was splashed with bleach, but he was somehow able to hold on to his Subway sandwich that he had bought. And then he casually strolls back in his apartment building, strolls past the security office in the apartment building and doesn't tell them anything. 45 minutes later, he goes to the hospital and reports this, doesn't say anything about the "this is MAGA country" comment. Then the next day, he adds, "Oh yeah, I forgot. They said this is MAGA country." And he says, "By the way, I was on the phone with my manager, and he heard them yell, 'This is MAGA country.' And when they asked for his cell phones and his manager's cell phone, he refused to give it to him. He also demanded that the officers who took his report turn off their cameras on their body cams, so that they wouldn't record what he said. And now he has turned over redacted pieces of his cell phone. Now, Franklin, if you were a prosecutor, would you think that's a very good story? Well, this isn't a prosecutor right now. This is an investigation.
Well,
which means that they can get the records
They're prosecuting
independently.
people like me who support the Republican Party and President Trump by a story like this. And it's looking more and more like he fabricated this. Like so many of these are fabricated.
If that proves to be the case, then he should be prosecuted.
Well, Chicago
for that.
police have said that if they find that he fabricated this, they will prosecute.
Of course they will.
And it's within the individual police officer's jurisdiction. He can determine if he turns his cameras on and off.
They say that it's relatively common for victims to ask him to turn it off. I don't understand that.
I tend to weigh in on John's side on this, although there is another side to that, particularly if you're talking about a celebrity. They don't want it to be on TMZ the next day.
True.
In that circumstance. So I understand that part of it. But by and large, I think the public interest is served by them not being turned off ever.
Yeah.
I mean, we demanded they have them.
No, I'm agreeing with
you. For that very reason, because we want to say we need to know exactly what transpired.
I'm agreeing with you.
So the whole story's fishy, but this all came out of the fact that apparently Chicago has a huge number of cameras. So our daily lives are being watched and tracked. Your cell phone's tracking you right now.
What are these cameras doing? Where are you talking? Bank cameras? You're talking?
Sure.
No, well, they're municipal London
they're
is
both.
municipal cameras, but they have access to all of it.
New York, a lot of the major cities, for terrorism reasons primarily, is how it got started. They have cameras everywhere.
And ATMs, every ATM has a camera.
Yeah.
So if you've
true.
got two ATMs sitting half a block apart on each opposite sides of the street, you've covered that whole street.
Yep. Yeah. Very good. Well, with that creepy thought in mind, we'll be right back.
You're listening to Backfire with Steve Hickson. We'll be right back after this.
Raise up me once again, my darling, and say forever you'll be mine.
You are listening to WOOP-LP, Cleveland, Tennessee. WOOP FM is a broadcasting service of the Traditional Music Resource Center, and we play America's original music.
Another SOS, and you're stressing, and that's the time to check in. Check into cash.
It's that time again. Are you more back to school or back to bills? When you need extra cash, text the word quote to 55670 for a free, no obligation quote. Learn how much cash you can pre-qualify for. That's quote to 55670. Get pre-qualified today.
Your one-stop money shop. Check into cash.
Hey, Whoopsters, you got the blues, the winter blues? Well, let Economy Rental help you. That's right, it's tax refund season. Go buy Economy Rentals for your appliances, furniture, TVs, electronics, and more. And during this tax refund season, you can take it home today, pay it off in 90 days with your income tax return. That's right, Cleveland's first rent-to-own business, locally owned and operated for 35 years. 901 Sahara Drive, 472-6105. Hey, you can still rent a TV, a 55 or a 65-inch, at a recliner for only $5 a week. And of course, they always have that washer and dryer combo, only $19.95 a week. Or 2 rooms of furniture for only $39.95 a week. Lord, 90 days, same as cash, free delivery and setup. I tell you what, go see Stacy Poteet and the gang and check out all their tax refund season specials. I'm going myself. Economy Rentals, we make it easy to own. Don't get the blues. Come on down and see what the tax refund season can do for you. Visit them at 901 Sahara Drive or call 472-6105 or economyrentals.net.
We're at the Train Heating and Air Conditioning Testing Facility to experience their infamous torture tests firsthand.
Hi, good morning, kid. This is cold. I'm surrounded by HVAC units covered in a layer of ice and snow. I get it. It's hard to stop a train.
Ready for a heating and air unit that's been tested in the harshest environments possible? Stop thinking about the other guys and get a Train. Call Mechanical Systems today to get your home on the road to comfort. 336-5739.
Train, the most reliable heating and cooling brand.
Attention, Cleveland area creditors. Are you tired of dealing with debtors that owe you money? I'm Jeff Renfro, and I've owned and operated Financial Recovery, a debt recovery specialist here in my hometown of Cleveland for 18 years. We're a licensed and bonded Tennessee collection agency working for a wide variety of creditors, from commercial, manufacturing, physicians, dentists, attorneys, small business owners, to individuals. Look, any kind of business dealing with billing, charge accounts, or even return checks. I know your past due accounts are not a top priority for you, but they would be to me. Let me try to make it easy for you to make a change in the way you've been handling your accounts. There's no contract and no cost to you in most cases, as our fee of only 30% can be added to the balance owed to you. So whether you have hundreds of accounts monthly and need help with your billing and collection, or you're just an individual and somebody owes you money, let me help you. Give me a call at 400-5376 and I'll come by and see you. That's 400-5376.
Financial Recovery, a licensed and bonded collection agency in Cleveland, Tennessee, 400-5376.
You're listening to Backfire with Steve Hickson on WOOP FM. Call 423-614-5553 to join in on the conversation. Now, back to Backfire.
All right, we are back. Welcome back, gentlemen. John Stanbury, Franklin Chansey.
Yep.
Still waiting for Steve to show up. Well, this past week, the day after Backfire, that's how we kind of see the week.
After Backfire.
They schedule things in Washington today after
Around
Backfire,
us.
so we can't skewer them.
It's a document dump.
That's right.
It's a document
Yeah,
dump.
they do that on purpose so that it's old news by the time we get to it.
That's
We're
right.
going to have a new perspective.
What they don't know is we have a 1 week news cycle around here.
That's right. Slowly but surely. Can I call you that?
Sure.
Can I be slowly?
Yeah.
Don't worry, Franklin, you are.
Yeah, I chose that on purpose.
All right, Shirley. All right. Well, we have Ocasio-Cortez giving her Green New Deal.
Yep.
For those who somehow didn't hear about it, there are a handful of things that it involves, such as getting rid of
minor things.
planes,
Rebuilding every house and building in the country in the next 10 years. Getting rid of all cars, killing all the cows, stopping all air flight. Just some minor stuff like that.
and a guaranteed living wage.
For people unable or unwilling to work.
Yeah, that word unwilling was kind of the choker. What do you guys, do we just talk about her too much? Is that the problem?
She is,
Or is she a
the
problem?
gift that keeps on giving to the Republican Party. Nancy Pelosi on the Green New Deal, a hell of a slight for a Speaker of the House to do this. She went, well, this Green Dream or whatever it's called, acted like she didn't even know what it was. And Ocasio-Cortez lied about her frequently asked questions sheet. And the Washington Post fact checker caught her in the lie, but then she finally took it back. And when she took it back, they went, well, we can't give her any Pinocchios because she took the lie back. Now, they would never do that for a conservative.
Franklin, there's got to be, there's something in that deal that's appealing, right?
Of course there is. And the purpose of it is to force a conversation to take place that's long overdue, and that, frankly, the Republican Party has insisted on putting off for 15 years to all of our peril.
Now, so you're saying she's not...
When you say it's a conversation.
Yeah.
This woman with an economics degree from, I think, Boston University can't figure out that, for example, the renewable energy part would need 500,000 square kilometers of, I guess, solar panels, which is larger than the entire state of California. She's put forward something that is actually logistically and scientifically impossible, Franklin. How is that a starting point?
Because what she's doing is forcing people to have a conversation about addressing global warming, and that's a good thing.
Well, that
And with all due respect, my good friends on the Republican side have put forward no ideas to address this. All they've done is criticize everybody else's.
Well, here's one
it's
of the problems,
kind of like their approach to health care. Yours is horrible.
Actually, it wasn't
And we're
horrible
gonna-
until
and
you
next-
all
and
broke
this
it.
time next-
It wasn't horrible
and
until
this
you
time
broke
next
it,
year-
Franklin.
this time next
You all
year-
broke it.
Yes, John.
It was working. You all broke it.
If
Instead
by
of
that
actually
you mean-
addressing the
if by
30
that-
million that didn't have it,
if by
you
that- that's
destroyed
exactly my point.
everyone else's.
That's exactly my
everyone
point.
else's.
You
You
made my point,
destroyed
John.
everyone else's.
You've made my point, John.
You
There
destroyed
were 30 million
everyone
people
else's.
with no health care
And
at
there's
all.
still 30
And you
million
say,
with no health care.
actually, the number's gone up the last year and a half. That's
Franklin,
true.
You all destroyed everyone else's. Instead of just saying, let's fix the problem we see, it's let's
Yes,
destroy
okay, here's what happens.
because you all want to
Here's what
control
happens.
everything.
Here's
it's about
what
control.
happens, John. You guys ignore
It's about
problems
control.
and ignore them till somebody else comes along and says, here's what we're going to do. And then your approach is, oh my God, that's awful.
Which
but you
it
did
does.
nothing.
It was awful.
We've been waiting 8 years
It was
for the
awful.
replacement plan for Obamacare that his party has promised us every year is coming in 6 months.
All right.
And it's never happened.
Let's get back to what we were
No,
talking
it's
about.
the same principle, though.
Franklin.
Right? There is a problem here, and you guys have
Here's
spent
the problem,
15 years
and you all
telling us
knew
it's
it,
not a problem.
and we now know that you meant it to be like this. You started down the road to socialized medicine. You knew once you gave people something, they would demand to keep it, and that's where we're at. And you're right. It makes the replacement program really, really complicated
Because you don't have
end
one.
up having to take something away from someone that
don't
you all
have
gave them.
one.
But while we were talking about the Green New
Let's
Deal,
do that.
let's talk about the new NASA study that is predicting a mini ice age. NASA's most latest study said that we are getting ready to enter into a mini ice age because of the solar flare activity. We're going into the minimum, and it's the same type of minimum that we had in the 17th to 18th century, which caused the mini ice age. So while we're talking about global warming, our own NASA is predicting global cooling. That's why we don't want to talk about crap like this. And when you talk about her, she is a blithering idiot. Now, I'm glad that she's there because it shows how crazy the liberal left, progressive left has gone. And Franklin, let's talk about the fact that she said she wanted to provide a living wage to people unwilling to work. Not unable, well, she said unable, but unwilling to work. Is that somewhere we want to go?
She's got lots of ideas I don't agree with, but I do appreciate the fact that she's putting issues on the table and making people talk about them.
So she's on
which is a refreshing
she's on the news, and she's asked, how do you defend yourself from the comment that this is just a massive government takeover of our everyday life? And she says, absolutely not. It's not that. It's not that. Less than 12 hours later, she's asked again, and she says, absolutely, it is a massive government takeover, and I have no problem saying that. Less than 12 hours later, Franklin, she completely contradicts herself and probably gives the honest answer. For example, they want to kill all the cows in the world, which means they want to control what you eat. No bacon, no cows, no pigs, because they fart. The document actually said farts.
Flashlight.
They said we can't kill all the cows within 10 years. Now think about that. We can't fully, I think fully was the word, which means we're going to do away with airfare. The funniest one was Senator Mazie Hirono from Hawaii says, I support this, and one of the conservatives tweeted back to her, good luck getting back to Hawaii with no airplanes. She wants no air travel in 10 years. She's a blithering idiot, Franklin.
Who's making you have to confront the fact your party is not doing
she's showing how crazy you people
the global
are.
Warming issue. Nothing. They've offered no ideas at all. They've in fact done stupid stuff, like he said just a minute ago. NASA has not predicted that we're going to enter an ice age.
I'll give it to you right
I
there.
have been reading for the last 10 minutes.
Right there. It's a new story, new study, just out.
First of all, I've
Read
been
it.
reading for 10
Read the
minutes
story.
about this article
From
he's
NASA.
talking about.
It's a study from
In
NASA.
typical fashion, he misconstrues everything. Okay, here's the way he approaches global warming. Oh my God, it's colder in Antarctica this year, so there must not be any global warming.
That's because
In
you all
fact,
started this
the
by
other
going, oh my
half of
God,
the
it's
planet
warmer in
is
sub-Saharan
burning right
Africa.
now. Oh, well, okay. All right,
Franklin?
he's completely ignores
You know what?
the science.
Here's the
And
science.
all these scientists say the same thing.
You mean-
and this is what they
You
do.
mean like the science that
This is
says?
exactly the reason
You mean
why
like the
there
science
is an
that says a
occasion-
baby can feel pain at 20 weeks? That science? That kind of science?
John,
I ignore that?
Really? Yeah, actually, you probably would if you thought somebody was making a buck off of
Franklin,
it.
here's the problem with the global warming thing. You all won't let us have the conversation. I don't disagree with you. NASA has competing studies. This study calls...
There's no competing study about global warming
You're
taking
wrong.
place, John.
That's the problem right there. You all won't let science have a conversation. You want to shut the conversation down because if you can sell this to the people, you can take over their lives. And Alexander Ocasio-Cortez admitted this was a massive government takeover of our
the
lives.
exact same approach they took with cigarette smoking. Oh, well, some scientists say it's actually good for you. Well, yeah, a couple of crackpots did say that.
NASA has actually
And millions of
put
people
out,
died because
Franklin,
of it.
NASA has put out competing studies coming to contrary conclusions. Most people with a scientific background would say that's where you have to have a conversation. If you've got competing studies that come to contradictory results, then you need to talk about it. You all won't let a conversation happen. You shut the conversations down.
Hey, quick question. I was but a boy in the 80s, and I was told the other day that during the 70s and 80s, there's a lot of talk of global cooling being a danger. Is that correct?
1976, Time Magazine, front page or cover story that we are entering an ice age and we're going to have cooling. And some of the same jerks that are selling global warming wrote books about how our population was going to starve to death and we were going to freeze to death. Those same people simply flipped the script and started in on global warming. Right before 2000, all of your people, Franklin said, the cause of this was the hole in the ozone layer. Why don't we hear about that anymore?
Because we took some steps.
Because it closed.
And what happened? What caused
Actually,
that, John?
we did nothing. No, Franklin, fluorocarbons did not do that.
I use fluorocarbon strings on my ukulele. Hey, and Franklin, would you say it is fair? You talked about Cortez kind of maybe overshooting the goal to start a conversation.
Sure.
Would you say it's fair to say that Trump has done the same thing? That's what John has said in the past. Would you concede that, like specifically, like Mexico is going to pay for the border wall?
Okay.
Well, that was my segue into talking about the border wall.
Look, you can have a conversation about immigration, okay? That's fine, but you need to ground it in some facts. All right, that's my concern with the conversation that the president had. Is that there's no facts to support what he says, none that I can find. All right, it's like this past week, I'm going to, El Paso. This is the safest city in the world because we built this wall there. And then the Republican mayor comes out and goes, time out. Not really, Mr. President. We were already one of the safest cities in America before you built the wall.
I've got the numbers actually on that.
The Republican mayor, while the president's there, comes out and says this.
So here's the graph.
Now the safer
Here's the graph on the border wall. Your crime was relatively low, but as soon as you built the wall, it makes a precipitous drop and completely continues across. Here it is, folks. You can look at it right there. There's your graph.
WhoopFM.com.
Here's what
That
the
shows your
people in
graph.
El Paso say.
Franklin, Obama's own Border Patrol chief agrees with this. San Diego agrees with this, that when they built the wall, they saw crime drop. And if that's the case, then why don't you call on Nancy Pelosi and Barack Obama to take the walls they built around their houses down? Why don't you call on them to take those immoral walls down? And by the way, if walls are immoral, Beto O'Rourke this week talked about how the walls are
profits at their house.
I'll call y'all's bluff on it.
Illegal
I'll
labor.
call your bluff on it then. Why don't you all take a vote to take down the wall that's already been built? Vote to take them down, Franklin.
Because as we have said, John, there are spots along the border where it makes actual sense. Unfortunately, your president has tied it to naked bigotry. And that's how it's going to be.
Once again, we had this argument last week. Franklin, if your doctor gives you a crazy reason for why he thinks you have cancer, you can say that reason is false, but you don't say, because of that, I'm not going to take cancer treatments. It doesn't matter why Trump said it. Everybody for the last 4 administrations has said these walls are needed. Obama's guys said these walls are needed.
For the last 4 administrations, what they've said is we need comprehensive immigration reform. But your party has buried that.
Franklin, did they give in 2014 Obama $8 billion for the wall? Did they?
They gave it as part of a border security.
No, for actual wall.
John, how much wall has been built since President Trump came into office?
About 60 miles.
Not 1 inch.
Actually, it's already been.
Not 1 inch.
No, you're wrong about that.
In fact, the president hasn't even spent the money that was allocated for it.
There's no new money has been allocated for new walls, but there is money that was previously allocated that has been built
since he was inaugurated. Not 1 inch.
That's not.
Which is proof of how stupid this conversation has gotten.
Well, I saw. I could have sworn I printed something out. I'm embarrassed I don't have it on hand. That looks like there may be a deal that Trump's going to sign.
I don't know if he's going to sign it or not.
There's $1.375 billion for the wall. Now he asked for 5. They gave Obama 8 just 2 years before him. So this is naked partisan politics on the Democrats' part.
What are the other aspects of the potential bill?
Well, the only thing about this that helps a little bit is this 1.375 that they're giving, can all of it be used for the wall? Some of it, like when Obama got $8 billion, some of it was for the wall, but it was significantly more than they're giving Trump for the wall. But all of this can be used for all. But they tried to actually put a limit per day on how many people the Border Patrol people could hold. which means if they overran the Border Patrol in one day, they just have to let them go. No screen, no, is this a criminal? Is this a murderer? Is this a rapist? It's above the cap, let them go. Now, fortunately, Republicans were able to fight back against that. But that was what the Democrats tried to do. Ocasio-Cortez and her troop voted to cut funding for ICE.
Franklin, do you see this deal that is on the table right now as a good deal that could make some positive headway for us?
No.
Just a Band-Aid, or?
It's a wholly political deal that has nothing to do with the reality on the ground on either side. It's intended to avert another shutdown. That's what it is.
Let me ask you a question, Frank. Do you think, do you have any evidence of any disagreement from Border Patrol officials, previous administration and current, that they need more border wall? Because the Border Patrol Union supports it. Obama's guy supports it. Bush's guy supports it. Clinton's guy asked for it. Trump's guy asked for it. It's almost 100% consensus with the Border Patrol experts that we need.
That's not true, what he just said.
Did Obama's...
How about this? How about this?
Trump?
Almost every county through the area they're talking about it on the border is opposed to it. How about that one? Is that true or false, John?
Folks, I don't know, Franklin.
It's true.
But, these things, actually, Franklin, I can support a wall, and when you come in and say, I'm going to take some of your property, I can have a personal reason to say I'm not happy about that. But Obama's people hate Trump. But Obama's Border Patrol chief has been openly advocating for the plan Trump's asking for, has said, we need it.
The fact is that the President of the United States has not spent the money that's already been allocated for wall construction.
Let me give you one reason. For example, we just got a Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals ruling in favor of Department of Homeland Security because a bunch of your liberal progressives tied it up in court. They were moving ahead, and they sued them. And they've now lost in the Ninth Circuit, which is one of the most liberal circuits in the country, and they lost there because the U.S. Supreme Court refused to take the case. So now we probably will move forward. So part of the reason none's been built is because your people use the courts to stop duly elected officials from carrying out their job.
Our people.
Yep. And when liberals lose in the Ninth Court, it's a really weak case. But it's drug on for 2 years, so it shut down the movement. You're right. No wall's been built because your people won't cooperate with anybody.
Well, jumping back a little bit to the Green New Deal, Finland, specifically about the guaranteed income, Finland did a 2-year trial. They had 2,000 of their residents who got money, whether they worked or not. And after that 2 years, they realized that they were able to increase happiness of those people, but not employment.
It had no effect on employment whatsoever. By the way, Mitch McConnell, all your presidential people in the Senate that are claiming they support the Green New Deal, Mitch McConnell's going to give them a chance to go on the record. They're going to bring it before the Senate, and they're going to vote on the Green New Deal. And we'll see where these guys come down. And by the way, let me just read you. This is Brian Riedel of the Manhattan Institute. Now, he's been costing government programs, he says, for 18 years. So this is before we get to the green part, because the thing had all kinds of stuff in it. Single payer, $32 trillion. Jobs guarantee, $7 trillion. The poor, $5 trillion. Education, family leave, job training, retirement security, $2 trillion. So that's $46 trillion before you get to the green part. So now you've got replacing 250 million gas vehicles, $7 trillion. Killing almost 200,000 aircraft. Replacing military jets, high-speed rail everywhere, upgrade, replace 120 million buildings, R&D, installing renewables everywhere. This guy says no idea, but it has to be heading toward 100 trillion. So he says, I've been costing for 18 years. This stuff basically cannot be costed out. It's incalculable. And as background, now this is his background. CBO projects total GDP of $263 trillion over the next decade, of which $75 trillion is already earmarked for federal, state, and local government. That leaves $188 trillion of private GDP. That's all the money in the country available for everything else. She's talking about spending every dime this country has. And when she was asked how she's going to finance it, she went, well, the Fed will just print some more money. And then we'll start some new federal banks, and they'll loan money. So apparently she thinks because you print a dollar bill, you created a dollar.
And there you have it. What I said earlier comes true.
Your people are idiots.
And your people have no answers whatsoever.
There is no answer. This guy's not a partisan. He just said you can't pay for it.
There is an answer, John. A perfectly valid response from somebody who was trying to be serious would say, well, I don't agree with all these things that she wants to do, but I acknowledge there's a problem. And here's what we're going to do. We're going to do carbon taxes like Bush advocated in the 90s. Oh, because that's a free market solution. Or we're going to invest some money in technology to help address this. But no, they don't do any of that.
Franklin. The point
you have it, John. That's the point. You've done nothing.
She is an absolute idiot. Can you not say that? She is an absolute
I will take an idiot
moron.
over somebody
Of
who
course
sticks
you
their
would.
head up their
You're
rear
right.
end.
You're right. Because she is the person, just like you just said, you'll take her. She's the person who says, I'd rather be morally correct than factually
that's
right.
What you're doing.
Morally correct
Oh my
than
God!
factually
Listen
right.
to these idiots.
I
We're gonna
just
do
gave
nothing.
you actual numbers of what her estimates will cost, and you're saying I'm the person not being realistic.
John and his party are the people in a burning
She's
building
an absolute
who are
moron.
complaining because somebody's trying to throw water out of a glass on the fire.
You know what we're complaining
Instead
about?
of calling
We're
the fire
complaining
department.
about someone who sits down in the middle of the fire and says, I'm going to meditate the fire out. That's what we're complaining about.
I love this show.
It'll be interesting to see how all his presidential candidates vote when they get a chance to vote on the Green New Deal. By the way, there's a conservative videographer that went out to a bunch of college campuses and said, do you support the Green New Deal? All the kids went, oh, it's great, it's great. Then he read them what's in it, and they went, oh, my gosh, no, I don't support that. That's crazy.
Well, there's a fella in Queens who killed his pregnant girlfriend.
Yep. He's going to be charged.
He's going to be charged with what they call second-degree abortion as well as murder. But with the law changes in New York, that charge has been
They had
dropped.
to drop the charge.
That was Cuomo signed the law on January 22nd.
They dropped the abortion charge.
But not the murder charge.
No.
Yes.
But guess what, Franklin?
Well, okay.
I'm glad you find that funny.
That's a huge difference.
I'm glad that's
We're
funny.
only going to prosecute you for
All right,
murder
so
now.
let me read you the woman. Here's the super in the building. He watched the video and said, "This is the woman on the video. He's got a knife. He's going to kill the baby," she shouted. The first stab was in her belly. He actually, the intention here was to kill the baby. So, Franklin, let me ask you a question. If she perhaps had managed to survive this attack and the baby died, he wouldn't have been charged with any kind of murder, just some kind of assault, right? You're comfortable with that? Is that funny, too?
He would have been charged with attempted
Is that
murder.
funny? No, he wouldn't. Wouldn't it be a charge?
No, I'm just saying the example you come up with is somebody who's going
Well, I
to spend
tell
the
you
rest of
what,
his
tell
life in
that to
jail.
the woman's family who got brutally murdered because he wanted to kill the baby. So I'm glad that's funny to you.
Yes, John, that's exactly
Well, that's what you said, Franklin. You started chuckling and
Yeah,
said it was
I
funny.
think it's funny that you think somebody who's being charged with murder is getting off easy. That's what I think's funny.
Let me read you some of the newest survey on the new position on infanticide by the Democratic Party.
There is no position. on
75% of
the
people,
Party.
this is historically, say they support limiting abortion to at most the first month of pregnancy. But there's new polling just out on this. 79% reject all abortion in the last 3 months of pregnancy. 80% oppose abortion the day before a child would have been born. And 82% reject denying medical care to viable infants. Now, of the people that label themselves pro-choice, 66% oppose third trimester abortion, 70% oppose abortion the day before the child born, and 77 oppose removing medical care from a viable newborn. By the way, Franklin, the New York law made it took away the penalties for allowing a baby that survived an abortion to be allowed to just sit on a cabinet top until it died. That used to not be allowed under the previous law. The new law allows that. Here, your own people are against it. Young people, 18 to 34, 69% oppose abortion in the last 3 months of the pregnancy. It's your side, Franklin, that is incredibly out of step with what America believes.
No, that's not true, actually.
All right, Democrat politicians in the House and Senate last week blocked the Abortion Born Alive Survivors Protection Act. They claimed that, Patty Murray claimed that it would hurt people's access to abortion, even though there's nothing in the law that mandates care for the infants, and the legislation does not restrict abortion rights. So, Franklin, if you all aren't completely crazy and off the deep end on the infanticide side, why would your party block a bill that would require a baby that survived an abortion to be given medical care? Your party blocked that in both the House and the Senate just last week.
Because, John, your party has made it very clear what your intent is. Your intent is to get rid.
So once again, what Franklin said, he didn't care about the actual effect. It's what you thought.
No, you're perfectly willing to use
you'll
those
be
people.
completely comfortable
You
with the
are
thought
willing to
police,
use
Franklin.
those people.
Franklin.
Because here are the
all right,
facts.
if a baby
Here are
survives
the
an
facts.
abortion, has the woman already gotten her
In
abortion?
this house,
Has the woman
how
already
many
gotten?
times happens?
Has the baby?
How many times
Franklin,
has this happened?
it happens pretty regularly,
Oh, it does
actually.
not.
Franklin, has that woman already gotten her abortion?
There were
Has she already
in
gotten her
2012, there were 92 third trimester abortions in the United
Which is
States of
92.
America.
There's absolutely
And
no reason to have any
75
of
of
that.
those were for documented medical reasons.
That's not true.
It is true.
Franklin,
But y'all don't care about
the abortion process in the third trimester is actually more dangerous to the woman's health than just delivering
That's right.
the baby.
Because
then
if-
deliver
that's
the
the
baby.
reason it
Then
practically
deliver the
never
baby.
happens,
Then
John.
deliver the baby.
It practically
Why
never-
would you not
because
deliver
it-
the baby?
Because in most of those cases, the mother is at danger of dying because of the delivery.
Franklin, that's not true. That's absolutely not true. Guess what, Franklin? I hate to break it to you, but a third trimester abortion, they still have to deliver the baby. They inject the baby with poison. It sits in the womb for a day, and then she still has to deliver it. So once again, the delivery is going to happen whether the baby's alive or dead. Why are you insistent on wanting to murder
Because
that baby?
that's what the science shows.
You're wrong. You're absolutely wrong.
Is that?
All right, well, we are past our time, but I did want to mention there's a new rebellion going on across the states, or maybe it's just one guy. 18-year-old in Ohio has decided to go against his anti-vaccination mother and get himself vaccinated.
That rogue rebel.
Yeah, he's rebelling against the crazy liberal progressives who are now against science.
Yeah.
Oh, where's
The science of immunization.
Steve, come back, please.
The
Those
conservative
aren't
liberal.
conservatives that are fighting that, Franklin.
No, it's the libertarians who are doing that, John.
That's
Who are
probably true.
much more embedded in your party.
That's probably true. All right, well, that's Backfire. It got exciting. So thank you, gents. As always, it's a pleasure. And Steve Doughball Hickson, Lord willing, will be back here next week. This has been Backfire.
You've been listening to Backfire with Steve Hickson.